Imagine a trading floor, but with no screens, no cables, no satellites, no electricity, just candlelight, ink, and a messenger riding hard like the future depends on it. Because it did. Here's what makes this unsettling. Today, we're told the world runs on data. But 500 years ago, one family had already built a system that looks eerily familiar. Forget the Rothschild and Waterloo legend. Centuries before them, in a German city called Augsburg, a banking dynasty treated news like currency. They collected it, filtered it, priced it, turned it into power. And we're not talking gossip. We're talking which king is actually on the edge of bankruptcy? Which army got stuck on the road? Which port just closed? Which alliance is about to collapse? In a world where money moved slowly, but rumors moved fast. Whoever heard the rumor first was already rich. This is the story of the Fugger newsletters, the Fugger Zeitungen, the 16th century's secret Bloomberg terminal. Think of Augsburg as a data center, with stone walls. The Fugger family weren't ordinary merchants. They worked with the most powerful figures in Europe. They lent money to kings and emperors. They managed the flow of capital across borders. They were a financial dynasty. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Their edge wasn't just gold, it was timing. When you lend money to emperors, the real risk isn't interest. The real risk is chaos. War, succession crises, revolts, plague. A single unexpected event could turn what looked like a guaranteed royal debt into an elegant disaster. So the Fuggers did what giant corporations do today. They bought better information than anyone else. Handwritten newsletters started flowing into Augsburg at regular intervals. Not printed papers. This was even before the age of newspapers. These bulletins reported political, military, and economic developments from across Europe, often before official channels knew a thing. The collection we have today is enormous, tens of thousands of pieces, mostly in German and Italian, spanning the late 1500s into the early 1600s. A live data feed for its era. Now ask yourself, if you could learn what Europe was about to find out 1 week early, what would you do with that? These newsletters weren't just interesting. They were actionable. If you knew which way events were heading early enough, you could pull credit before the panic spread, demand collateral before a king admitted the truth, reroute a shipment before a port closed, stock up before a famine became common knowledge. In other words, information asymmetry, the oldest engine behind insider advantage. And this is where the dark side begins. Once powerful people understood that news shapes markets, war stopped being just about swords. News gets suppressed. News gets distorted. Sometimes it gets leaked. Deliberately. Suddenly, the front line isn't just soldiers in the mud. The front line is messengers, couriers, scribes, and whispers. An information war. And the prize wasn't land, it was predictability. Which is why this feels so familiar today. We think data mining is a modern invention. But the logic is ancient. See the truth before others do. And you buy the future at yesterday's price. Here's what flips the whole story on its head. Most people assume Fugger agents wrote these bulletins, that there was one centralized Fugger spy operation. But the research tells a more interesting story. These reports were often written by professional news writers, novelisti, who sold information as a service. And the flow of news was largely built on top of existing postal and courier routes. So the Fuggers didn't lay down a private internet from scratch. Their real power was somewhere else. They were early to recognize the market, where information was being produced. They bought the flow, they filtered it, they combined it, and they turned it into a clean signal, one that made actual decisions possible. And there's a second, quieter twist. What we call the Fugger today wasn't built in a single moment. It was a vast archive of knowledge, collected and preserved over years by later generations of the Fugger family, especially from 1568 onward. The reason we can talk about this terminal at all? Because someone considered information too valuable to throw away. That is a very modern reflex. The Fugger story proves something. Knowledge can literally become capital, not a metaphor. Actual fact. 16th century Europe was a geography of religion, politics, and fear. Censorship was rising, empires were tearing themselves apart to fund wars. Official truth was usually late. Sometimes it never arrived at all. So the family with fast and reliable information wasn't just reacting after the fact. They were shaping the conditions under which history would happen. And here's the thought that won't leave you. Maybe the world isn't steered by a crown. Maybe it's steered by the files sitting on a table, the reports that arrived 2 days before everyone else learned the truth. So the next time you hear "knowledge is power," don't think of a tech conference slogan. Think of Augsburg, a messenger riding out at dawn, a sealed envelope, and a banker cracking it open. Reading the present before it's even happened. Long before Bloomberg terminals, there were newsletters. And 500 years ago, someone already understood the rule that still holds today. The first to know sets the price. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay curious, but never lose your skepticism